Alright, time for the second chapter.
And arguably the best one.
Has anyone seen Back to the Future Part 3?
Yes. We literally did a commentary.
It was rhetorical, Jova.
Well, your tone didn't show it off well.
Sorry.
When we arrived, it took some time to locate him. But we eventually found him. In prison.
Typical.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, okay, one thing about this, it will get a bit formulaic, and it kind of just begs the question, considering the villain's ploy, why not just kill the Coopers?
To be fair, I mean, it kind of shows the Coopers aren't really that great at thieves. They keep ending up in jail every time.
Well, that's because people from the future are intervening with hindsight, with knowledge of hindsight.
It's a double-edged sword, Joe, in the sense that I get the feeling they're trying to bring back
Sly Cooper and the gang in Go West, the young Raccoon.
Of course.
Go ahead, Pedro, sorry.
I get the feeling they're trying to bring back a more simpler formula akin to the first game, while at the same time still having the more, big-scale time travel plot, so it's a bit...
Here's the problem, this one is a bit of an inverse, though. Sure, the first game story could be argued to be rather formulaic, however, it was with the heroes winning, so you at least felt nice and pumped with them moving along. Here, without spoiling, the formulaic stuff is more in the negative, which just makes us feel not as fun a story, unfortunately, especially with the payoff of the finale. Instead of the heroes constantly winning, they're constantly losing. And okay, look, if this were like some amazing villain, I'd be fine with it, but the actual mastermind of this whole thing is not nearly as smart as the story one.
No, that is actually a true thing. Anyway, the trinket I collected with the Bluetooth of this level essentially gives me more coins. So it helps things out with the upgrades.
So you may notice that this level harkens a bit to the Canadian level from Sly Cooper 2. Only instead of snow, it's more desert, obviously. But like that, it has a train going about, a bit of a western twang.
So Bentley's plan is, in order for Sly to actually meet his ancestor this time, is to actually get arrested himself. The problem is that we need to make sure that the new sheriff is triggered enough so Sly gets arrested. Surprisingly enough, it's not that easy.
It's a pity this doesn't take place in more modern times. I would have had the perfect idea for it. Insult all their sports teams.
Honestly, Dweebs, that's something that gets you triggered more than, most people in common life.
Well, sports teams in general. I
can tell you these Dweebs, the villain of this episode does not really care about sports. Yeah. Well, okay, I tell a lie, partially, I guess, but not the ones that you think.
Does he care because sports are a big thing and he feels like he has to care because...
Well, it will be more clear, I think, in the next part anyway.
Relatable, so, yeah, Sir Roy?
Apparently this sheriff is pretty much a spoiled sport because he has a gigantic icon, he has afflicted a lot of posters all around the place, so first order of business, vandalize the shit out of them.
But to answer you, Jova, pretty much because the only reason I even care about football, rugby, and all that stuff is because everybody else around me talks about it.
Also, Sly really needs to improve his graffiti skills.
Oh, let's see. What's Sly writing down? Let's write it down. Your dick's as big as your toothpick.
Well, no, toothpick is the name of our villain, but will be more clear later.
Let's hope so.
The primary, it's the payoff, but I'm not going to talk about the payoff because we haven't gotten to it.
Much later.
My problem is that, okay, again, the payoff is very important, of course, arguably the most important thing, but the build-up is equally as important because without a good build-up, even a good payoff may not work.
And it's like, with the way the build-up goes, you wonder how the heroes were ever the good guy. Well, okay, how the heroes ever got anything done in the last games, because unfortunately, the way the story goes makes Sly and the gang look
always a
unfortunately
step
very
behind.
and also
Um,
incompetent, unfortunately.
It's a problem similar to stories like Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, where in order to make the villain actually effective, you constantly have to have the protagonist just be always a step behind, no matter what, which can become very infuriating.
That said, the difference is that Fawful was actually a credible threat. Again, if you have a villain who's a credible threat, then I can get it. Like I've said, the mastermind of this is anything but.
I mean, I can't believe that he managed to accomplish things because he got surrounded by people who actually knew how to get shit done. It's just he himself. It's kind of an idiot, but...
Plus a lot of good mysteries, a lot of good mystery stories are when us and the main protagonist are about as knowing of what's going to happen as each other, i.e.
Okay.
Just let you know, dudes, that's not the case for this. Also, it's not really meant to be a mystery of who's behind this because there's...
A bit at first, but I think already, either at the end of this part or in the next one, we will already know, actually, who is the main villain now.
Not only that, but the villain is not... Well, the main villain is not a returning character or whatnot. It's like, well, there's no clues to look for as to who it could be, since it's a completely new original character, and it's not like we've heard of any other main characters aside from the bosses that we face who could be the main bad guy.
I got it. The series is going to get all existential on us, and they reveal it was us, the players, that were the true villains.
This isn't Danganronpa, shush.
Oh, wow.
There you go. Anyway, there is a Sheriff Toothpick, the Eastern European armadillo. Yes, really. Voiced by David Lodge. Finally, David Lodge gets some other role other than generic narrator NPCs in JRPGs.
Like I said, Toothpick is actually one of the better and more memorable villains in this game.
You ready for phase 2?
Absolutely.
Apparently, the sheriff also loves lollipops, but his favorite is a particular Cuban variety, which has to be shipped in specially.
This is a kid's game, we can't have him smoking cigars.
Yeah.
Even though we had literally the first boss smoking a cigar.
Maybe they didn't... Like, okay, maybe showing it and saying it are two different issues, I don't know.
It's not even that, Dweebs. I get the idea that this is also to convey more the fact that Toothpick, as we will also learn from his bio later on, is more of a man-child than anything. So,
I'm not Dweebs. Yeah.
Sorry. Well, I think Dweebs was the one who raised it. Whatever.
No, what are you talking about? We definitely are.
Yes, we've established that Shiroi is you from
anyway,
the future.
The ultimate irony, Sly has to literally steal a piece of candy.
For a baby.
This is like taking a baby, which is fine by me.
Yeah.
Say what you will about that game, the one-liners are beautiful.
Extremely quotable.
Alright, Jova, by the way, if I understood correctly, you were saying something about a problem with some kind of story where the heroes constantly get outdone by the villain may be a problem?
Well, no.
If I understood correctly?
It's not inherently a problem. It's in this story where it's a problem, because the problem is that the villain, when we actually do see who the villain is not nearly competent enough and comes off as more a villain Sue, just made to be, oh, look at how much more credible a threat this guy is, even though his actual character does not match that sort of thing. But
Sorry, go on, Joe.
But like I said, the issue is also that the story here is, when you get down to it, not as upbeat as the previous ones. The characters are constantly losing, they will constantly get outsmarted, and again, going off of that ending, this game is kind of depressing when you think about it.
Especially because the original trilogy always had a Lupin the Third type of vibe in a lot of ways, where, you know, like the main character felt like an empowering figure. So it is a bit weird that they would take this direction.
And don't get me wrong, it's nice to see the heroes get challenged and occasionally outdone, but I'd say you want to do something like a mix of it. Take, for example, Sly Cooper 2. The heroes were winning against tougher and more deadlier foes until they got outsmarted by the one enemy who they thought would be too dumb to do something, Jean Besson, who then pretty much shipped off all the clockwork parts to the main bad guys here and there. It was something relatively unexpected, but, you know, a nice change of pace. We were still certain that the heroes would come out on top, but they were definitely challenged properly in that game. Now again, look, if you wanted to have the heroes be constantly outdone, I'd say it would need to be a very, very, very compelling villain. Otherwise it just comes off as you jerking off the boss. Also, given who he's working for, shouldn't the boss, well, okay, even if the boss didn't know about Sly at that point, shouldn't he have warned him, oh, by the way, the Cooper gang tends to mess up with these sort of plans here. Maybe watch out for them.
Okay, I'm curious, Jova. Without spoiling anybody else who might not have played it, would you say that the Premonition did that well, considering how the Raincoat Killer constantly outdoes York and the others like 3 times in total before any progress is actually made?
Like, okay. Some people have argued that that twist is pretty obvious, and in hindsight it kind of is. That being said, it makes sense character-wise, given, you know, York's perception of a situation, and, you know, that he's essentially focusing on the wrong things. It makes sense. Like, don't get me wrong, York is smart, but he's not infallible.
Obviously.
Also, if I had to I had to the very least get the idea that York actually does, you know, actually get progress in the investigation. Sure, it might be too late for saving actually, you know, some of the victims, but you get the idea that he's still managing to successfully puzzle things together.
Yeah, that's another thing, like, there's that. Whereas, again, with this game, the heroes only manage to progress by luck because of how contrived the time-traveling mechanic is, and it never feels like they're gaining ground, notably.
Also, to the question that you asked before, Jova, if I recall correctly, starting with the third villain, they start to actually report to the main one about Sly's movements. So there is also that. Apparently, I think there's an entire mission in Chapter 3 where that villain discusses with the main villain about what to do.
I think you're right, if I recall correctly. It's been a while since my last time.
The thing is that, again, the main villain was not expecting the Sly gang to also have a time machine, meaning that things are being scrambled.
True, yes. My point is, though, shouldn't he have at least, you know, drafted his henchmen on... Oh, by the way...
Oh, here we go. We're about to actually meet the ancestor Jova, so might as well.
Here we go.
Also, by the way, that's an actual costume that you actually have to work with, so... You don't mind the fact that the chain is not even holding to his foot, but whatever.
Gameplay, story segregation.
There we go. Tennesse.
Howdy.
And yes, he's voiced by Sam Riegel.
Yes. Yes, he is.
I like that.
Which adds to his charm.
It's Sly Cooper.
That said, him being voiced by Sam Riegel is not the only thing that helps him out.
It will become more apparent later, but Tennesse is basically the most broken of all the ancestors when you actually get to play as him, for just one simple reason, but you'll see for yourself. For the time being, the two actually have to bust out of the jail.
But yeah, Tennesse is witty, he's quick on his feet, and, well, while he does act skeptical, he's not one of those stupid arbitrary skeptics who, like, goes, oh, I'm not gonna believe you at all. Like, no, he's a practical sort of fellow.
So yeah, the costume, the jailbird costume works essentially like this. Sly slows the fuck down, but as a result he gains a very powerful frontal attack that can stun and destroy even the bigger guards.
I think out of the
wall, apparently.
I think out of the costumes, this is one of my lesser favorite of the costumes. Like, it's not the worst, but I find it more sluggish and actually fun to work with.
I think the costume in Chapter 3 is even lower than that, especially because this one actually has a good actual second function of mobility.
I guess break time is over. You can probably move that container if you hit it hard.
We already went there, Bentley. Don't worry. I just need to. There we go.
The game wants you to slow your roll.
Why am I the only one with a ball and chain here?
Listen, friend, they're planning on hanging me tomorrow.
What, you're
wanna
wearing
try?
your feet up.
What was that you said
I
about being
mean-
kid-friendly, Dwibs?
Oh, so we can't have the cigar, but alright, sure.
Again,
I
they
didn't say it
put
was
more intentional
entirely
than
kid-friendly,
anything.
did I?
Actually, I haven't even checked what was the rating of this. Probably 16, Peggy 16.
Wait, that's like the equivalent to a T rating over
I'd
here.
say like 12 or something.
It depends, Shira. There are specific rules about guns and tobacco that can pop up the rating a bit.
Weird.
Also, yes, Toothpick has installed an entire megaphone system in the prison just so we can, once again, well, for another villain, talk to himself so that the guards can listen and bask in his own ego.
Yeah, again, Toothpick is one of the more
For-
entertaining villains, I won't
For the
lie.
just letting you think in perspective, the person who voices Toothpick in my country is the official voice actor of Vegeta in DBZ. That
Fitting.
surprisingly fits well.
So he has a thing for playing munchkins with complexes up the wazoo.
And
Oh, yeah,
people who
someone
shout
actually-
very loudly, "Ah, spiders, go away!" Ew.
Someone mentioned. I don't know how you pronounce it. Lupin the Third.
Yeah.
It is available here in Britain, but it's only like from like part 3 or 4 or something.
So it's only in pieces released.
Yeah. So would I need to watch the others to?
Well, okay, it works more of an like an anthology more than anything, so you're not missing completely too much. But it would be still nice if you actually, got a way to actually, watch the entire thing.
Fun fact,
Also
most
interesting-
people usually categorize eras of that show by what
Depending
color
on the
Lupin's
color of the jacket.
suit is.
By the way,
Also,
this game...
Yes, you're right.
also apparently the English dub of one of them was based off the original broadcast of the show in Italy.
Oh, nice. What was that
Yeah,
you saying,
Shiro?
Shiroi?
It's E10 plus.
Ah,
Okay.
I thought so.
That's 12 here then.
I couldn't find European box art, but yeah, probably.
What was the game that came out in
So,
Europe?
so yeah, now
Oh, really?
Have it.
now it's an escort mission because Tennessee decides to carry an entire, barrel of TNT, and you have to basically move in for the rest of the prison section.
So
Lovely.
It's
why
not-
did Tio play the game?
It's
Yeah, I was
it's-
about to say I thought of that as I said it, but yeah, go ahead, too.
It's it starts nice, but soon enough it will become a bit. No, it's not completely unbearable. I've seen far worse escort missions, but it's still on the a bit of the annoying side.
Look around, Sly. There's bound to be a switch somewhere.
Whatever you say, Bentley. Whatever you say.
Figure I'll wait by the door while you work this.
Oh, thank you, Tennessee. You're always nice.
Wait. Surprised we don't have. If we've got a character named Bentley, I'm surprised we don't have characters named Ford or Renault.
So we're at the 4th game, and now you make this kind of joke.
Better late
Yeah.
than never.
But
Pretty late.
to also answer a bit more to your question from before. I also recommend most of the OVAs of Lupin III. They are surprisingly dark, even compared to the normal series, because there is one that I distinctly remember where the villain kidnaps a young woman because he wants to genetically create a race of super soldiers based on her genetic DNA splice. So it's weird as fuck. But the highlights are, of course, the one that have crossovers with Detective Conan. They have made 2 of them, I think, and both of them are pretty good, actually.
It's been case closed.
No.
In the meantime, I have an answer for you, Shiro and Glibs. This game is rated Peggy 7 over here.
Peggy 7.
What?
So hang on, you can be younger in Europe to play the game than in the US.
See, I told you this
I guess
seems
it's
to
from
be
the
a
same
thing.
people. I guess it's from the same people who rated Crash to Insanity 3+.
Sure. Oh, sorry. Cutscene.
No, it's what you need to know is that again, this is another piece of Earthcore mission. The catch is that here there are flamethrowers, so the moment Tennesse actually gets close to one of those, he blows up. So you need to wait until the right timing. Gone.
Sure, allow me to remind you that Lost Future, the game that has Rosetta Stone in it, is also rated Peggy 7. So...
I've said this before, but this seems to be an actual thing where stuff in Europe is rated lower because it's animated.
Well, yeah.
I would argue it also has to do with
Cultural differences.
Well,
cultural
okay.
differences more so than anything.
Here's the thing.
No, because ratings usually line up.
When it comes to ratings, it seems like the US is more lenient on stuff involving violence, whereas Europe seems to be more lenient on sexual innuendos and the like.
That kind of thing, yeah. Let me check where Peggy's situated.
In the meantime, time for the other function of the jailbird costume. Since there are some sections where where foot lasers, lasers is raised on the pavement, you cannot actually touch it, otherwise you get electrified. So the solution to that, the solution to that is to use, there you go, the ball and chain like an actual moving ball. It just works.
But
also,
yeah, sorry.
Sly probably has a lot of strength in his legs in order to move something like that, heavy and big, like a normal ball. But go on, Pedro.
There you go, Shiro. Peggy's situated in Belgium. And Belgium is the country that gave us Tintin, a franchise that's marketed at little kids despite having guns and
a lot of racism.
Yeah, so yeah, there you go, Shiro.
It's even in Portugal's case, it's even younger because they don't have Peggy 7 there; they have Peggy 6.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, 1 year younger.
That's because Webs. Oh, hold on.
No, this is actually a very simple puzzle. It is kind of like the only one of this kind of figure. You need to use the ball and chain to move that figure into the stamp. But there's the catch. Just like any puzzle of this kind, the stamp moves only until the very end of the track, meaning that you have to use the others as obstacles in order to create an actual trajectory for it to slide in perfectly. Go on.
It boils down to this, Shiro. Never mind. I thought it was Dubs that asked me. Peggy actually does do different ratings based specifically on that country's overall culture and shit like that. So,
if I recall correctly, the German Peggy, the Peggy used for Germany tends to be also a bit different.
Germany doesn't use Peggy.
No, they use their own.
And
Final has told me that it's terrible.
It's not even that. It also has that awful gigantic sticker plastered on each cover. Seriously, I don't mind the actual potential rating, but please, couldn't you make just a bit smaller logo? The Peggy.
You want to see the cover art?
Neither the Peggy nor the SRB are that big or intrusive. What was wrong with that?
I agree. Jova, has the ESRB ever rated something different from state to state? A game?
No, not from state to state.
I think it'd be countrywide. That kind of thing would be countrywide.
Yeah.
Well, remember, Dibs, the overall laws and stuff do vary from state to state somewhat, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was a case like that.
No. When it comes to ESRB, it's always been, the same across the states. Maybe it's changed across.
There you go. Next.
So how many pickrats do we get?
I guess per. No, okay. To be fair, it's not even that much of a difficult. Maybe 20.
All right,
but
Luke, I need you to do me a favor. Balance on this ball over the dangerous green fields.
I get the idea. Emmy probably will do it. Just for fun.
Depends on which time frame.
Luke's smaller and therefore has better balance.
Well, remember this is Thieves
But
in Time
Emmy's very agile.
Oh, remember this is Thieves in Time Tale, so it makes sense for this to take place during the Lost Future.
Yes, but screw Emmy, and that's all.
All right, I'll do it.
Not to mention, remember, Luke freaking climbed over a part of a giant robot to save a woman. So he's capable. He's got this.
All right. Also, when it comes to
I think it
rating,
saves me from doing it.
also when it comes to rating, the worst that I heard is just Australia, because there,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
even
Oh,
for
definitely
something
Australia.
potentially minor, a game gets even banned. Mortal Kombat and GTA
Well-
have an infamous reputation
Yeah, I
for
remember
not being
GTA
released for
5 got
years.
outright banned.
I can't help but find it ironic how Australia, of all places, where plenty of people swear up a storm, is one of the most conservative when it comes to ratings on
And where their
media.
humor is some of the most crass I've ever heard in my life. Like, I don't get it.
So how are you gonna lead it up? Oh, fair enough. Yeah, maybe you should get cover.
Yeah.
I just want to say I knew you was a Cooper the second I laid eyes
Sure
on
Sure.
you did.
Thanks, but Tennessee, we need to go.
Yeah,
You
seriously.
ready?
Well, not really.
Props for honesty. Still. Yeah.
You know, Sly, the butterfly effect may become a problem at some point.
Well, to be fair,
Real quick.
if they did nothing, then
Alright,
that would just
time
lead
to actually get to know a bit more situation and a bit more about the
Once there,
villain, if I
Tennessee
recall
gave us the
correctly.
lowdown. How he'd been planning the bank heist that should have gone down in Cooper lore as his masterpiece, only to have a mysterious new sheriff arrest him before he even reached the bank. Curiously, the robbery still occurred. All the bank's gold was stolen. Tennessee was charged even though he was already in prison, and the gold was never recovered.
Oh, how convenient.
Of course, he had a strong suspicion it was Sheriff Toothpick himself who had stolen the gold and framed him. And after a little research, there was no doubt he was right. Bentley was able to uncover plenty of information about the sheriff. Although he changed his appearance somewhat, Toothpick was a two-bit gangster from present-day Eastern Europe. According to
Apparently was a huge
Two
fanboy
things,
of
gold and
the
cowboy
Western
movies.
genre.
Honestly,
He
Europeans seem
specialized
to
in
really
gold
love our
robbery,
westerns.
And for a while, Tennesse landed some of the largest scores around the world. Then he abruptly
So the moment someone actually gave him the
Word was
opportunity
he
to
always
actually
thought of
go and
himself
live
as a
his dream,
gunslinger,
yeah.
and it looked
Okay,
like he
so
found a way
like
to
I
make
said,
that a
this is one
reality.
of the better villains here
guy
and there.
was a
More
real
insight
loose
here and
cannon.
there.
We
Sort of
have
a
to
bit
watch
like
our
El
backs
Jefe, but
in
I'd
order to
argue
steal
more
back the
in depth
missing
as
gold
well.
And restore Tennessee Kid Cooper's reputation as the greatest outlaw of the Old West.
Oh yeah.
So,
just before
yeah,
we
go
wrap
on,
up,
dude.
Pedro, about you mentioned the Australia thing. That's got nothing on New Zealand banning Power Rangers for the longest time, even though it's been filming there since 2003.
Yeah, sure, I remember.
What?
Sure, cultural value, like I say. Well, that's my argument. See, sure, I remember when I went to see Ted back in 2012. It's an R-rated movie, and yet there were like 5, 6, 12-year-olds in the theater along with me.
Okay,
So, and they
that
were
might
only
be
about their parents, by the way.
okay. That might be simply put a law not being enforced. That's a bit different from not being present in the first place.
Oh, I know
True.
that too, but it's the thing. Normally, you'd think the usher wouldn't allow the kids to get past the door, but he just
Well-
does. That's the thing.
Well, apparently the usher is doing a bad job then.
That's the thing, Jova. I can tell you, nobody really cares.
Again, that's the same problem that stems from stuff like prohibitionism. If there is a law but nobody's there to enforce it, it's already present. But that's a topic for another time. For the time being, see you for the next part where the gang has to recover Tennessee's cane, since he doesn't actually have it right now, and has to tackle Toothpick. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.